Good morning, everybody. Dave Folk with Credit Guys here. Just wanted to say thank you for joining us on this edition of our Pep Talk. Today we're going to talk a little bit about marketing, but before we get into that, I'm going to start it off with today's quote. Change is inevitable. Sometimes it is better to adapt to it rather than avoid it. The first time I heard this, I had to think about it for a little bit. We're so against change as a society, and in general, a lot of the times if we embrace the change or adapt to it, we're going to be light years ahead of it than the people that want to avoid it altogether. Oh, sorry, having some technical difficulties. Let me bring that screen back. There we go. All right, so that is the quote. Today we're going to talk a little bit about start with why marketing your business differently. And who's going to talk to us about that is marketing genius Kevin Oldham, is who we've got today. Normally these calls are, a lot of the time, they're just audio calls. Kevin actually has some videos, and it's very back and forth today, so there's going to be some times that you want to look at the screen. If you're just dialing in and driving and listening, that's fine. These are all recorded. I will send out the YouTube link later of the recorded presentation. If you're not able to catch the videos now, you can always go back and catch them again later. So a little bit about Kevin is he's got over 18 years of experience focusing on new business launches, strategic marketing and business development in the real estate and professional service industries. He likes to talk a little bit about himself down there at the bottom. A quote from him: he is obsessively curious about eliminating barriers for growth for business, principals, and their employees. Through a collaborative problem solving with partners, I help firms create a value in markets by addressing and overcome these challenges head on. I've personally had the opportunity to not only work with Kevin on a personal level here with Credit Guys, we've had the opportunity to work with him in some strategic partnership roles in a much greater role. And Kevin will do exactly that, and Kevin is very good at what he does. And one of the unique things about Kevin is I like his out-of-the-box strategy and thinking when it comes to marketing. So without further ado, Kevin, are you there?
I am here. I am here.
Perfect. Well, the floor is yours, and I'm going to actually change the presenter over to you so you can have controls, and we'll see what's on your screen.
That sounds great. That sounds great, Dave. Appreciate everybody's time today. What I would like to do first, and let's see here, show my screen. All right. So, I have think about marketing differently for the next hour. This talk typically takes an hour when I'm doing it to a live audience because it's interactive, but it'll actually be much shorter in today's format. But I always like to start off with a commercial that's pretty famous. Steve Jobs here with Apple. I believe it's a commercial that was made back in 1997. It's the Think Different commercial, so I'm going to play that here for us real quickly and get us all to start thinking about marketing a little bit differently. So let's cue it up.
Here's to the crazy ones, the rebels, the troublemakers, the ones who see things differently. While some may see them as the crazy ones, we see genius. As the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do.
So kind of an elegant commercial there. And Apple has done, amazing things over the years in terms of marketing. In a lot of the B schools out there, they're currently looked upon as a great case study as being kind of superior marketers, selling us products that we didn't know that we actually needed. So I want to challenge everybody on the phone today because we all have different roles in our chosen perspective or our chosen professions to think about, why are you in business? Why did you get out of bed today? Why do you spend 8, 10, 12 hours a day away from your family? Because you want to make sure that time is spent very importantly and that we're investing it wisely. And we're going to look at some pretty famous folks out here as well as companies, kind of like Dan Duffy, who was on the most recent Pep Talk. These are not my original thoughts. They're actually taken from a TED Talk. If you're not familiar with the TED Talk series, it's a lot of thought leadership, national series, and I sat through a TED Talk online that really struck a chord with me, and so the content I'm going to share with you today is revolving around that. It's from an author named Simon Sinek, and I'll actually tell you about the book that he wrote as well. So we look at the commonality here. We see Martin Luther King Jr., we see Apple, and then we see the Wright brothers. And the commonality between these three subject matters is they really started with why. And that's going to be a subject of today's conversation. Simon Sinek, and you can see how we spell his name here if you wanted to Google him. He wrote a book called Start With Why. And he's got this concept called the golden circles. And golden circles start, we've got what out here, we've got how, and we've got why. And there's a belief out here, and the more that I've looked at it and the more that I've thought about it over the past year and a half, that a lot of organizations and a lot of people know what they do. Every organization arguably on the planet knows what they do. Here at United and United Country Real Estate, we help unite buyers and sellers with dream properties. We help real estate agents grow. We help our franchise partners create a great living. So the what is never really that hard to describe, but a lot of companies start with the what because that's the more easy thing, right? Many organizations, know how they do what they do. And these are the differentiators, what sets them apart, what makes them special. That's also not a very hard exercise to get to the how, right? To use the United Country example again, how do we do that? Well, we own market share in primarily C and D counties, less densely populated, and we have a presence there, and we have media vehicles that reach those folks. How do the credit guys do what they do? They have a 6-step process as to how they help people achieve their clear credit so that they can get on with their lives and purchase real estate or purchase things that are important to them. Very few organizations know why they do what they do. And believe it or not, why is not about making money. Money is a result of all the activities that you do through business, right? But it's not really like your cause or your belief system as to what it is, why you are doing what you're doing on a daily basis. So there's been some research, believe it or not. Most companies start with what, and then they might get to how, and they might get to why. But with the three subject matters that I showed you earlier, they actually all started with why, and then they went to the how, and then they went to the what. So they started within the circle, and then they worked their way outwards. So let's take a look at some specific examples. Chances are, because I've given this talk a couple times live in front of a couple hundred people, and I said, does anybody know who Samuel Pierpont Langley is? The only reason I know about this guy is because of the research that I've done for today's conversation. But Samuel Pierpont Langley was an example of a gentleman who started with what? You can kind of see here from his picture, he was around during the turn of the century. That would be not the 2000s, but the 19th century, which was the equivalent of our dot-com boom that took place in the late 1990s. And it was a period of time when there was a lot of emerging technology, not the technology that, it's a lot of the technology that we take for granted today. But one of the things that Samuel Pierpont Langley was focused on was building the world's first lighter-than-air flying machine, okay? We call those airplanes today, right? He was extremely well-funded. I mean, you can see the people that he hung out with. These are people that we know. Alexander Graham Bell, Andrew Carnegie, extremely well-educated. He was hanging out with the right crowd, and he really did not have money as an object. He actually had a $50,000 grant. So $50,000 was a lot of money back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, which came from the War Department, which was the Department of Defense's precursor organization. And he developed kind of a dream team, He had some of the most bright people working on his team. So you can kind of imagine, you've got this, in today's world, we have extremely well-funded people who've assembled great teams, and they're out to conquer, big, hairy, audacious goals. And because of this, the New York Times was actually following him everywhere. Like, they were documenting it. There was a lot of public awareness around what Samuel Pierpont Langley was up to. So you might say, hey, what's the problem? He's well-funded. He's hanging out with the right people. He's got brilliant folks. He has a goal that seems like it would be achievable given all the things that he had, right? But he didn't have a clear sense of why. You know, his purpose for building a plan was really centered around his what. What could he get in exchange for solving this problem for the world? He was very, very passionate about aeronautics since a young age, but he didn't really have a cause to champion. He's just like, hey, I want to be the guy who gets out there and gets this first in flight assigned to my name and go down in the history books. So you can see that his motivation was money, fame, you know, being that first, being the man. So how did it end for this guy? Well, that's not good. Test flight landed in the Potomac River. Nobody, or very few of us, have heard about this gentleman and cared really so much about what everybody else thought about him. It was really about, hey, Samuel Pierpont Langley is preoccupied with fame, so he failed. These fine gentlemen over here, they are folks that we all know, the Wright brothers, right? They had the same goals as Langley, but they really didn't have a recipe for success. I mean, these were a couple of guys who owned a bicycle shop. They really were keen at failing. They didn't have high, level connections. They didn't have government backing. They didn't have the college educations. They were really kind of bootstrapping it in today's world. So what was so special about these guys? They had a dream. They knew that, frankly, getting in flight was something that was way bigger than themselves. They knew that if they could solve this problem, that it would actually change the world. And they believed that it was so much bigger than Orville and I forget his brother's name. Oh, well, that proves how good I am at history. But they imagined the benefits to society. They didn't care about the prestige that would come with it. And we all know what the results were. Back in 1903 in Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, they got up in the air for 59 seconds. And you can see this picture. I always love this picture. They were literally just limping along at the speed of a jog, and their achievement went relatively unnoticed. I mean, nobody, the New York Times wasn't there. They actually didn't go out and say, hey, we did it, we did it, we did it. They were content to just wait and then tell the world it was not about the Wright brothers. So if you look at these two parties and you see kind of, okay, they had a lot of the common things, right? Common goals, highly motivated, strong work ethic, the keen scientific minds that each of these parties had. They both wanted to create the first flying machine. But when you're motivated by why, when the Wright brothers were motivated by the human spirit, they made history. Samuel Pierpont Langley, he was motivated by the what. He paid for talent to help him get rich, and he quit. What was really sad about this was he didn't take what the Wright brothers did and try to improve upon it. He just threw in the towel. And as a result of that, almost nobody has heard about him unless you read about folks that have potentially failed. So Apple is a great example of a company that starts with why. If they spoke to us as consumers, and chances are most of us own a device that is manufactured by Apple, whether it's an iPod, an iPhone, a computer, it's very hard to go into a U.S. household now and not find some sort of device that was made by Apple. But if they had back in the 1980s when they were launching the first Macs, started out with kind of a commoditized type of message that spoke about the what instead of the why, it would really sound a lot like this. Hey, we make great computers. They're beautifully designed. They're simple to use. Features, features, features. Hey, do you want to buy one? That's what their messaging would sound like. And I think it would be hard for us to have seen Steve Jobs as such a great marketer if that was the way that he communicated to us. But the way that they really communicate to us is much more like everything we do, we believe in challenging the status quo. We believe in thinking differently, as you saw by their commercial earlier. The way we challenge the status quo is by making our products beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. And we happen to make great computers. You want to buy one. If you go to their homepage right now, I can almost guarantee, I haven't been there in a while, but let's actually go there and check out what's happening at Apple today. iOS 7, so they're coming out with a new mobile operating system from a whole new perspective. And everything that they do is very, very simple, and it's really about the why. It's not all about the features and the benefits. Amazing company that's done wonderful things. They've created new categories. They've disrupted existing categories from music to book publishing, categories that, who would have ever thought about. They created, smartphone category, which we almost all carry now. It's an amazing way. Everything that they do starts with why. Somebody else who started with why, kind of a hero of mine, Martin Luther King Jr. Look at all these people here. 250,000 people. I mean, Martin Luther King Jr., really, it could have been somebody else, and he actually did not want to be the guy who was kind of the face of the civil rights movement, but his peers pushed him, and he knew, he had clarity as to why it was important for him or somebody like him to get up there and speak and tell people that everybody was equal in the United States. And all of these people, believe it or not, they didn't show up for Dr. King, but they actually showed up for themselves. They all had a common belief. They had something very, very deep within them. We knew what needed to change in the 1960s around, civil rights in the United States. Martin Luther King Jr.'s why gave him that strength and the energy to continue to fight against all odds. I mean, I can't imagine being in his shoes. A very, very brave man that changed our country forever. His why really was developed as a result of his time and the place that he was born, the color of his skin, but really the civil rights movement was the ideal platform as to bring his why to the world, his belief in equality to life. So here are some other scenarios that I would like to share with you all. This is a stock chart for a company that, man, I probably would not want to own this stock if I bought it back in 2000. And I love having a classroom or an open forum of people that I can share this with, because I always try and get people to guess whose stock this is. Here's kind of their tagline. Here's how they approached the market. I said, hey, we've got a product. It's new. It pauses live TV. It skips commercials, rewinds live TV. It memorizes your viewing habits, records shows on your behalf without you needing to set it. Well, the public's reception to this was actually kind of freaky. They were like, hey, I don't understand it. I don't need it. I don't like it. Frankly, you're scaring me. And the company that approached this was actually TiVo. One of the ways that they could have changed their success was, re-articulating it, saying, hey, if you're the type of person who likes to have total control over your life, every aspect, boy, do we have a product for you. It pauses live TV. It skips commercials, rewinds live TV. Heck, it even memorizes your viewing habits and records shows on your behalf without you needing to set it up. Do you want to buy one? They may have had a different success story, but now TiVo is irrelevant. The cable companies are all offering DVRs that arguably are a lot better than what they do, and they continue to not have a very disruptive business model. Frankly, they've been disrupted. Another company who has really started with what is SiriusXM, which used to be two companies, and it's actually pretty sad to see what's happening with their business model, because I think that if they would have approached it differently, they may have had more success. But they use features to sell, and I'm a prime example of somebody that gets targeted by SiriusXM, and I can see their desperation in my mailbox once a month. And it's all still about the features that they have. They are, hey, we've got 170 channels, we've got Howard Stern, or we've got an Eminem channel or a Pearl Jam channel, no commercials. And really what's happened is satellite has yet to displace commercial radio in a meaningful way. And I think that their window has passed. Their window has absolutely passed, with cars having Pandora, coming into the dashboards, smart computers being embedded into, cars. That's going to be the next environment where we're going to see a lot of technology. So In an act of desperation, Sirius and XM merged, hoping that would change their luck, and today they're offering extreme discounts, promotions. They claim themselves as being, #1 satellite radio service provider. They're the only one. So you can kind of see a contrast of what and why. And what I wanted to share with you next was an approach that we used recently at United Country in actually going out and talking to folks and telling people why we exist. I think that we do a really, really good job of articulating why we exist for our buyers, for our sellers, as well as for our agent and broker partners. We have a lot of different business lines. We call them specialty property groups. So we actually sell property at the property type level, and we specifically do a lot of timberland property. And we saw an opportunity, I think, differently and go to Society of American Foresters Convention and actually talk to people who are foresters who may not even have real estate careers on their radar. And we come to them with a very bold statement. It says, hey, do you make $200 an acre cruising timber? Our foresters do. The most successful brokers in United Country real estate are foresters. To put that in perspective, most foresters make about 1/10 of that going out and cruising timber and figuring out what the valuation of it is. And so they were coming up to our booth, and they had this postcard in their hands, and they're like, how are your folks doing this? How does that work? And everything about our messaging wasn't about our features and benefits. Our features and benefits were down here. These are our features and benefits. We could have easily come out and said, hey, we've got 400,000 buyers, and a lot of them are looking for timber property, and we've got these great websites, and we've got 6,000 timber listings. Yeah, that's important, but it's not the headline. And the results of this were astounding. Here's a pretty motley crew. This is our team here who is working our booth. Everything started with the why, and the results of us being the only real estate company at the Society of American Foresters Convention was we had 2,000 attendees, everybody from students from Berkeley to registered foresters coming up and align at our booth the whole time. We made connections between foresters and United Country offices, and as a result of that, we've recruited a number of agents who were just foresters and who now see the opportunity to go out and take down real estate. 3 out of the past 4 years within United Country's top sales rankings, a guy named Scott Lindsay, who's the director of our national forestry practice, has been the #1 agent in all of United Country's network out of 4,000 agents. So he is a perfect example of somebody who is thinking differently, and even the way that he approaches his business, it really starts with the why. Why is he in this business? Because he cares about timber, he's passionate about it, he saw an opportunity, I think, differently and go into real estate, and he's been the #1 agent in our company year over year. Most recently, we went to another forestry group and spoke, actually exhibited, I forget the name of it, I think it's called the ACF, out in Denver. And as a result of those using that same messaging, we had a webinar yesterday with prospective franchisees, people who are thinking about affiliating with United Country. The majority of them were foresters, and we've got a whole bunch of them coming in over the next 2 weeks. We're penetrating a market that nobody else is out there penetrating. And why are we doing that? Well, because it's something that we believe in. It's something that we can do very, very well, and we're really thinking differently about real estate. So here are some final thoughts on how you might start with why marketing your business. And frankly, how you might start with why as a personal approach to your life. This book that I read and the TED Talk that I absorbed literally changed my perspective, not only on my professional life, but also on my personal life. So start with why to stand out from the crowd. I mean, nobody else is really doing it. Start with why to recruit that top echelon of potential employees or partners, or frankly clients. If you're in a position where you get to choose your clients, align yourself with clients that have a common why. Start with why to convey the reasons why you wake up every day and you chose to be in your chosen profession. I mean, the guys, the credit guys, I talked to them and I said, hey, why did you guys start this business? And their why is because they frankly wanted to make it so that anybody could go out and achieve the American dream. Pretty simple. Solutions for your credit needs. That's why they do what they want to do. They want the average person to be able to go out there and win, even if they've had a couple of bad marks on their credit report. Start with why to position your product and services differently in the marketplace, and frankly, do it because your competition isn't. So kind of a short conversation today, but I appreciate everybody's time. You can reach out to me online, and with that, I'm going to go ahead and let Dave chime in. That's really what I wanted to share with you all today.
Kevin, thank you very much for going over that. That's I like the whys. It's very powerful when you can understand the whys and you can understand them better. Just talking a little bit about credit guys, when we present to people, we have to say, let's start off with why Credit Guys started before we even get into how I can help. And frankly, why we started is we got sick of having to tell everybody no. We wanted to be a company that could tell everybody yes. So while everybody else says, no, you can't qualify, no, you can't buy that house, no, you can't buy that car, we wanted to make an industry, we wanted to make a legit company that could say, yes, we can help you, yes, we can do that for you, yes, we can put you in that position. So, I mean, that is really where our why started, is we wanted to be the company that got to tell you yes instead of no.
Yeah, I mean, I still remember sitting in Keith's office. Keith is the CEO of Credit Guys, and I said, why did you guys start this business? And he gave me the background of how he grew up and everything, and you could tell. I mean, it was genuine as to why you guys are there. It's not to make money. I mean, that's a result of your hard work and the business that you guys have built. But it's something much larger than yourselves. It's, like you said, helping the average Joe achieve the American dream and being able to hear yes. That's awesome. It's awesome.
Yeah. So, well, yeah, that's kind of our why of what we started. You definitely gave us some stuff to think about a little deeply. And just because you haven't, this isn't just to start a company. This doesn't go out to, owners of a company. If you're just an individual loan officer, why are you in the mortgage business? It doesn't have to be you're starting this from a concept of why your business is in existence. It's why you do what you do. And if you can understand your whys and your whys are powerful enough, you'll be very successful. But don't think your whys only are limited to, at a company level. They're down to a personal level. Do you have anything to add on that, Kevin?
No, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, some of the, especially when you're in a business that might be seen as kind of a commodity. So look at the home loan business, for example. You're competing against, countless other banks or lenders. You're competing against other loan officers, potentially folks within your own office. And you have to differentiate yourself, especially in the real estate business too. I mean, this is one of the things that we're always challenging our agent broker partners, is to go out there and think differently, position yourselves with the why, not the what, especially when a lot of the things that you have somebody might be able to get elsewhere. You really have to stand out from the crowd and think differently. And starting with why is an exercise that I think that anybody could benefit from on a personal as well as a business level.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So for more information, if you guys want to learn a little bit more about Kevin or have questions for him, check him out at kevinoldham.net. It's just his name, Kevin, K-E-V-I-N, Oldham, A-O-L-D-H-A-M.net. He's got a website on there to reach out to him, to contact him for a little bit more information or how he may be able to help benefit your company in figuring out your why and marketing to your why. For our next Pep Talk coming up on August 22nd, we actually have Peter, the president of United Real Estate, coming on and talking. As you know, this month in September is back to school month, and Peter is going to come on and talk to us. He's going to take us back to sales school. So that's what he's going to talk to us about a little bit, is Sales 101 and taking us back to sales school and rising above the new normal. So that's on the 22nd. As always, guys, thanks for joining us. You can reach me at dave@yourcreditguys.com or give me a ring on my phone number there. I will upload this to YouTube as soon as possible and send this link out for those that missed it. Feel free to forward this on to anybody. And for those of you that want to come watch it again and pick up some of that information, you're more than welcome to come watch it again. But thank you for joining us. And Kevin, thanks again.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.